Hi, everyone. I had a wonderful time doing an interview with Dana Rochat, and she breeds Australian cattle dogs. She also shows them and does a lot of trialing with them in various different venues and different activities. I hope you enjoy our conversation as she taught me a little bit more about the breed, kind of some of their little quirky things that they do, and things that you should think about before you decide to bring one home.
Okay.
All right. So, how long have you had or been around cattle dogs?
I got my first cattle dog in 1996.
Okay. And do you show them or do you use them on a farm or do you breed them or all of the above?
All of the above. In 96, when I got my first cattle dog, he was not a purebred.
Okay.
And then after my daughter came along and she wanted to get into showing, I had shown other breeds as a junior and then got out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she decided she wanted to show, 4-H was very limited in showing 2 fairs a year. So I decided we should do some research and get our first purebred. And we started doing our research in 2008 for our first purebred.
Okay. And you have them work on your farm, right?
Yes, we actually do all events. We do confirmation showing as well as herding trials and other venues. Agility, rally, obedience, stock diving, barn hunt, nose work.
Okay.
We do them all, but we do have several hundred acres here that we manage for our county parks department, and we require to do weed abatement with our sheep. So it just made sense that we already had a knowledge of sheep herding, that we combine the two. So we also use our dogs here in a practical sense on our ranch.
Okay. And do they just work sheep or do they work cattle also? Are they versatile that way?
Yeah, very versatile. We don't have cattle on site, but we do train on cattle and do cow dog trials as well. And we also work ducks and geese. So they're very versatile herders.
Okay. As far as medical conditions with the breed, are there things that people should be asking breeders about or looking into before getting one or being aware of that there's, something that could be going wrong in the future with this puppy that they're going to bring home?
Yeah, absolutely. There are 2 general medical issues that Australian cattle dogs have. One is what's called PRA, PRCD, and that is a genetic eye condition, and that we can test for. We know that certain bloodlines will be affected, carriers or clear, and we're looking towards or working towards breeding clear to clear so we never have to worry about that genetic disease. The other problem that is prevalent in the cattle dogs is hearing deafness. And unfortunately, there's no genetic test for that yet. They're doing a lot of research and working on that. But as breeders, we can test our puppies after 45 days of age and know that they have been at least born full hearing.
Okay. Is it something where if 2 parents have a puppy who is deaf that they're more likely to have another one, or haven't even figured that out yet?
Not at all. They have no clue. There is a veterinarian, Dr. Strand, who's been researching it for a long time. And
Okay.
his conclusion was that it might be in the pigment, lack of
Okay.
pigment, such as white boxers, white Dobermans, white Dalmatians.
Mm-hmm.
Those things is what their thesis is, but it is not proven at all.
Okay. Do you think that they would be able to be owned by somebody who lived in town? And if so, is it something where you would think that they should have a fenced yard, or are hiking walks and that kind of thing going to be sufficient for a cattle dog?
Yeah, cattle dogs are very active, but they're also as active as their owners are. We would never recommend them being in an apartment because they are active. Having a yard is definitely beneficial. And for me as a breeder, it's a requirement there has to be some type of an outlet that they can be a dog and get some of their natural energy out, besides having an active family or lifestyle.
Okay. How often would you say that they maybe need to be out for a walk or active with direct input from their humans a day?
I only believe once a day. And while these dogs have a lot of energy, they're not extremely high in energy. They just want to be part of your activities. So during feeding times or throughout the day, if you're able to just simply interact with the dog, do short training sessions, that takes over the need to go for long walks or hikes.
Okay. Are they fairly easy to house train?
Yes, they're so smart. They can pick up the good and the bad really fast. So
Okay.
as long as you're consistent and they have an outlet, and I usually tell everybody I can, doggy doors are wonderful because they can go when they need to go. They'll come back when they're done.
Okay. How what kind of sports do they seem to enjoy the most? You said that you participate in a whole bunch of them. Are there some that they prefer doing versus the others?
I think each dog is an individual. They will do whatever you ask of them for the most part. I have some dogs, we go to a location where they do both barn hunt, agility, and dock diving. And I show up for barn hunt and I see my dog looking over at the pool. Or a different dog, I show up to do the pool and she's looking over at the barn hunt. So
Okay.
they'll do anything I ask of them and they'll do it very well. But I can see where they're like, I'd rather go chase rats or I'd rather go swim. So
Okay.
that's when we will do what they like as well.
Okay. How well do they get along with other dogs if you're introducing a new adult dog to an adult dog that you already have?
Introducing cattle dogs to new dogs, especially adult dogs, can be very challenging. They're very territorial, they're very possessive, and they can get extremely jealous. Now, I know these are human terms, however, these dogs do exhibit these types of behaviors. So when introducing to new dogs, we always take them away from either of their locations that they live, introduce them in a neutral setting, and go very slow to see if they like each other. Cattle dogs are a quick judge of character, both to four-legged and two-legged, so they can react very, very fast. They can either like them or not like them in a blink of an eye. So introductions have to be very careful.
Okay. How do they do with other small critters? Like if somebody has cats or bunnies or something like that as another household pet, is it something that you really have to get a cattle dog as a puppy in order for them to be okay? Or is it something that can be introduced later?
Yeah, I tend to lump children, bunnies, and cats all under the category of your best chances of success will be getting a puppy. So if they're introduced to that lifestyle early on, adults are typically called the play police. And if they don't like the scream of a child as it's running by, that can unnerve them and they can go heal them or want to control them. So a puppy can learn and grow up with those sounds and sights and smells, and it is absolutely normal. Whereas an adult can get very unnerved by that.
Okay. Um, and you mentioned that they're a quick judge of character with people too. Does that matter whether you're at home or away from home? Is their reaction different to strangers depending on where they are?
At home, they're typically not as reactive, but even in my house, we have 7 cattle dogs here. And when somebody comes in or out of the door, they want to make sure that they're protecting their family. So they might grumble and become alert. And then they're like, oh, it's just you. And then they relaxed. Now,
Okay.
when we're out and about with strangers, they always regard a stranger as a stranger. And that's within their breeding and their protective nature, is to protect their people and their belongings first. And that's why they're such a quick judge of character, because it's so ingrained in them to protect us before they can relax and say hi. So we do a lot of training with strangers, and that say hi or say hello command is me giving them permission to relax and know that that's a good person.
Okay. Are they typically like a all family dog? If there are multiple adults living in the house, do they kind of go to everybody, or do they kind of pick one person and stick with that person?
Yeah, they definitely tend to pick one person if it's a family. However, whoever has the food or the toy, they'll be their person for a
Okay.
while. So in general, they'll pick one person, but if somebody has their favorite item, they will go hang out with them.
Okay. And then would you consider this a dog that somebody who's never had a dog before would be able to handle, or is this something that maybe you should own some other breed first and then jump into the cattle dogs?
That's a tough question. These are very challenging dogs. They're very smart. For a person to come to me and say, I've never owned a dog in my life, I would be very hesitant to sell them a puppy. I would need to get to know them and see their resources first to see if they're able to go to obedience classes and learn. I would err on the side of this should not be a first time dog.
Okay. And then as far as grooming goes, do they require very much maintenance? Are they like once or twice a year shedders, or do they shed all the time? And is it something that somebody could maintain themselves at home, or would you recommend a groomer?
Yeah, the grooming is very simple on the cattle dogs. They are called wash and wear dogs for a reason. Occasionally they'll get a bath if they're smelly. Otherwise, we don't bathe them. They don't require daily brushing. However, it's kind of a joke. They do shed and blow out their two coats twice a year, and we joke that twice a year is 6 months at a time. So they
Okay.
do shed a lot of hair, but they blow their hair twice a year. And
Okay.
that's the time that you have to require some brushing to help get those clumps out. Otherwise, their pretty maintenance is low.
Okay. Are they fairly tolerant of the brushing and grooming process, or does that take a lot of training to get them comfortable with that?
No, once they're okay with the brush, they recognize that it feels good, and they usually just lay down on the floor and say, okay, it's that time.
Okay. What is your favorite thing about cattle dogs? What do you love most about that breed?
I love most about cattle dogs that each one is very unique. In the breed, they're so smart. They pick up on your family, on what you do, your routines. They're funny, they're cat-like, yet they're human-like. Yeah, they're just, I guess it would be how smart they are and intuitive is my favorite thing about them.
Okay. And what do you find most frustrating about the breed?
That might also be that they're too smart. Sometimes they're 2 steps ahead of us, and we have to try and be very creative in our work methods or living at the house here. So we have to be on our toes. So frustrating is they're very independent thinkers. They can think outside the box, and they can go solve a problem where you didn't know there was a problem to begin with.
Okay. And if somebody's looking for a breeder, you mentioned that you are one, where would they find information about you? And if you're too far away, what are some things that they should be asking a breeder before they decide to get a puppy from them?
Yeah, we do have several national clubs in the United States. My first thing is to always, go to a dog show or ask somebody if you know of a breeder to get personal references. But when you do find that breeder, you want to ask them how they have health tested the parents, and do they work, or have they shown, do they have titles? Why did they breed this pairing? And to make sure that the puppies are raised in home in a family setting and they have a lot of exposure to a lot of different items for desensitizing them so that they can become a really great all-around family pet.
Okay. And then I thought I had a couple other questions. do you find any difference in dogs who have been bred for like conformation showing versus dogs who have been bred specifically for working? Is there a lot of temperament difference, or is there a lot of overlap in both of those?
These days, I don't find there's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of people who are focused on producing show dogs or dogs that judges like to put up for winning. And then you have just a handful of people that are doing both, like myself, that I do conformation showing and herding trials. And there are those people that don't care what their dog looks like as long as they work. Now, those dogs that go out and work, they typically are very tough dogs, and they're out there to do a job. So people are secondary to that job. And that can lead to temperament questions. If I'm going to take my dog in public, I need to know he's going to have a good temperament. Or if I need to go work him on the ranch, I need to know he can do both jobs. So there are focused breeders out there. And I do think that temperaments are very specific to bloodlines and how they're raised.
Okay. So that might be another thing to ask a breeder about before you get one.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you think people should know before bringing home a cattle dog?
The cattle dogs are so smart. And before you bring one home, you'll want to child-proof your house. I know it kind of sounds funny because not everybody has children, but having child-proof locks or locking lids on your trash cans, just think about everything a little person can get into, that dog can as well, or that puppy can. So by child-proofing your house, it's going to give you a huge step up in making sure that the puppy doesn't get into trouble.
Okay. Definitely a good thought for an intelligent breed. Keep them from getting into the trouble in the first place.
When I brought home one of my puppies 4 years ago, and we recently had her elbows done, her hips and elbows, when she turned 2 for breeding. And the OFA vet, she goes, "So you do disc jumping with this dog?" And I went, "No." She goes, "Oh, well, you do hardcore agility?" And I went, "No." And she goes, "Well, this dog has chunks out of her elbows from repetitive motion." And I went, oh. She was getting on the refrigerator at 6 months of age and jumping down way off of the refrigerator. And so she was jamming her elbows and caused a little injury on both of her elbows equally. And this veterinarian saw that, and I'm like, yeah, they're crazy dogs.
Okay. That's the first one I think I've heard of going on top of a fridge.
Yeah, and she would have to get onto the kitchen sink and then jump up on the fridge. So we ended up putting boxes on the sink when we left her when she was alone, so that she wouldn't get up on the refrigerator. But the damage was already done and we had no idea.
Yep. And then if somebody wanted to contact you about a puppy, how would they get a hold of you or find out more information? Do you have a website or a Facebook page?
I do. Yeah, I'm located in Cherry Valley, California. My Facebook page is just my name, Dana Rochat. I also have a website, which is www.just4mav.webs.com.
So it's .what.com?
.webs, WEBS.
Okay. It crackled a little bit at the end there, so I couldn't hear it.
Gotcha. Yeah, so it's just 4mav.webs.com.
Okay. So I'll definitely include that in a link when this gets posted, so that people can get a hold of you if you want. And then I'll put a link to the breed registry site, so that people can look there too in case they're further away, and that would be a bit of a drive for them to come see you. So
yeah, that is true.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anything else you would like to add?
I don't think so. There's so much to go over, but it's like,
yeah,
how to condense it and make it easy to understand. But thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I sure appreciate you coming to chat. It's been fun learning a little bit more about cattle dogs. I do love the herding breeds. They are fun and intelligent, even if they get into a lot of mischief. So kind of
That is
fun
true.
to have a little bit more to compare it with. I grew up with an Aussie, so they're a little bit different, but still intelligent and get into trouble sometimes.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of people say, "Oh, those cattle dogs are high energy." And I went, "Not like the Aussie. That's
Yeah,
some high energy."
yep, definitely had to keep him busy. He liked to have something to do. So, all right. Well, thank you very much. I'll
You're
post
welcome.
these in that group as well when I'm finished with them all.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, thank you. Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.